We still need a name for whatever the heck we're going to call this little mini show of ours. But we're still exploring various Dragon magazines from over the years, and we did number 60 last time. We jumped all the way into the future here, skyrocketed up to number 168, and so this is early 90s. There was a run here for a little while where Dragon magazine made it a point for almost 2 years straight that damn it, we're going to put dragons on the cover of Dragon magazine, and this particular one I happen to love because of the quote at the top. You'll notice a dragon trying to land on a rock that happens to be inhabited by some seagulls. And if you've ever been dive bombed by seagulls by accidentally getting a little too close to their nests or their young, you will get the humor in this as the worm turns. Here come the seagulls. So.
Oh, those Gen Con guys, or those Dragon guys.
Yes, those Dragon guys. All right, so inner cover, we've got an ad for the Buck Rogers role-playing game. I'm not sure, except for possibly the Ice guys, that there's ever been a larger marketing push on a game that went nowhere.
Agreed. I think a lot of people bought Ice, as we said past episode, that just to use them as reference books. Nobody bought this thing.
Well, and
I bought a couple books, but no.
I think one of the biggest challenges with it is, folks our generation remember the really cheesy Buck Rogers TV show with Gil Gerard that lasted like 2, maybe 3 seasons at the most. And there were some pretty amusing moments in the first season, but after that, it kind of lost its luster. Essentially, you're taking something with a very rich mythology and a very let's face it, if you go back to the old original Buck Rogers material, there's a lot of very detailed backstory to it all. But it's all, I mean, it predates when this game was being released by 50 years. There is nobody playing role-playing games of any sort of sci-fi ilk at all that gave a rat's ass about Buck Rogers as a media franchise.
Correct.
You know, at the time, we were all completely in the tank for Star Wars and Star Trek. And you know, this is, as Star Trek Next Generation is starting to come out, you know, it's new. So there's a renewed interest in Star Trek. Nobody gave a crap about Buck Rogers. If you were going to reboot a pulp movie franchise as a sci-fi role-playing game, you'd have been better off going with Flash Gordon thanks to the cheesy early 80s movie. But even that's 10 years in the past by the time this issue is rolling, and all of these Buck Rogers source books are coming out. It just...
I had no earthly idea at the time. I'm in my second run at grad school at this point, and I remember thinking at the time, at whom is this aimed?
Yeah.
At whom is this aimed?
Because
the answer is, in my mind, is nobody.
Yeah, my dad was a little too young for the original Buck Rogers movie serials, you know, Saturday morning pulp movie serials. And my dad was not the target audience of any role-playing product ever.
Well, and you had the older generation, I probably have to put myself as between them, but close to them, that we were playing Space 1889.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
yeah, absolutely.
If you wanted Victorian sci-fi, that was there, and that was very successful for Frank Chadwick and crew.
And I would... Here is the argument that I will make, and anybody that wants to argue with me, you're welcome to, and you're wrong. Space 1889 was the first major steampunk media franchise.
Of course it was. Of course it was. So. Anybody else that you're goofy if you think different. You know, just I picked up, you know, one of the glories of the internet is my childhood is wound up on the trash heap. You can go to drive-through RPG, and buy literally everything ever put out for Space 1889 for on the order of $50.
You can actually get it a little less than that when it's on sale, because that's what I did.
Yeah, and it's everything. And you go through there and you say, yeah, that's what they did. They created a steampunk world. So, yeah, so the old schoolers were playing that. The modern folk were into Star Trek and Star Wars. And this, I think, was TSR going, we could do a space game, too. We just don't have a license.
Well, what's dumb about it, though, you mentioned we could do a space game, too. We just don't have a license. Star Frontiers is 10 years old at this point. They've got a space game with a pretty solid, robust world underneath it.
That was actually my thought at the time. Why don't you just, for God's sake, reboot Star Frontiers?
And they're only a year or two away from Alternity.
Yep.
So we are pausing here briefly, not just for the whole Buck Rogers digression, but also over here on the right side, this jumpstart your campaign, grab some new players, show them the new D&D game. So, Bruce Hurd, who we've actually had on the Grogcast in the past, and who I count at least as an online friend with some correspondence that I've had with him over the last couple of years recently, he was one of the lead dogs in this, pulling this sled through the product line. Here's what I will say. As far as an introductory product, hand a new player a box and say, here's how role-playing works. This box was as good or better than any other product I've ever seen for introducing new role players to role-playing. Because it had, and you can kind of sort of see them here in the screen, built into the DM screen, there were these dragon cards, these multicolored tab things. I don't know if my arrow is actually working on the screen or not, where the recording's picking it up. But these multicolored tab things, they were like the old cheesy reader cards that we had back in 3rd grade, where you had to work your way through the purple ones, and then you got to go to the green ones, and then where they were these little reading passages. They introduce you to a different piece of the rules each step of the way. And they do a great job of, hey, this person represents you. Okay, so what can you do? Well, here are things you can do. Well, what can other people around you do? Well, how do we know whether or not you're successful? Well, we have these stats, and we compare these stats to these certain kinds of things. And it introduces all of these concepts to you in a very understandable, programmed way. This map that's in here, with the map and some of the counters, you start off on a very small piece of the map, and it adds another part of the story to each step as it explains the next rule to you. You start off locked in this prison, and so you've got to pick a lock, and then you've got to sneak past the guards, and then somewhere later on you get in a fight, and so, okay, so how does fighting work? And so it rolls these rules out to you very, very well. And as a starter box, as a, grandma's buying a cool new product for the kid that has no idea what role-playing is, this is one of the best that ever existed. Moving on.
No, it was yeah. Rolling on.
Hey, look, Grenadier minis. So
I had this, played it, painted
it. So I can't speak to how good the game was at all. I do know
it
at least.
Wasn't.
I was going to say I do know at least 2 people that bought the box, not because of the game, but because you got 102 flipping dudes in here, and so what it did was it gave you a crap ton of orcs that you could use for your big encounters in other games.
No, you could also use them if you were a Warhammer miniatures player, which is this is what that's intended to take on.
Yeah. This
is clearly Grenadier saying, hey, we can do GW1 better. I mean, geez, look at the art and everything. And we all use it for that. So
yeah. The great frustration of early role players was you had the damnedest time finding hordes of monster minis that you could use when your guy suddenly got in a fight with, you accidentally crashed the Goblin poker game at the nearby, at the nearby bar and grill. You never had enough Goblin minis to actually put out there to be the bad guys. And so you would go raid like a Games Workshop box or a Grenadier box or whatever that had a crap ton of orcs or goblins or whatever you needed, so that you could actually get a bunch of them. What it meant was you had 15 identical looking orcs, so you had trouble keeping track of the stats on each of them. But at least you had bad guys. And I cannot fathom how it took them 25 years to catch up with the fact that, hey, we need more bad guys. It was ridiculous. All right, our contents. Hey, look, color. We've actually got color pages. By now...
I'm going to say something, though. I'll make a design point about this. If you got somebody with eye issues, this is a horrible choice.
Yeah, hard to read. Yeah.
Very, very low contrast. Bad choice, people. Bad choice. Don't do this.
At this point, Jim Ward's taken over as the publisher. Roger Moore is now editing and not merely writing for them. But Dragon Magazine at this point is a real, legit, serious magazine, not just a bunch of hobbyists that happen to kind of figure it out as they went. This is actual business. That said, they still can't get their kerning right. Take a look at our page numbers over here on the left side.
Right.
Yeah, good God, that's a lot of space between those numbers. That just hurts to look at. We have an editorial. This is only a test. but it is a fairly amusing test. So
this is actually really good.
yes.
I read through this and I thought, man, so I know most of them, but I'm serious. These are the sorts of things that you had to do when you were an editor because you were expected to do it. And if you are in the unique space of a fantasies / gaming magazine, you best know these things. This is fun. We should actually, one of these days on the Grogcast, we should actually pull this thing aside and see how these guys do.
So, that might be fairly entertaining. Maybe unintentionally so. I do want to see one thing. This was not intended, but just dumb luck. We happen to grab another April issue here. I promise we're not just trying to grab April issues. This one was grabbed for a particular reason, and it wasn't because it was April. So, this test may have something to do with this. This is good. Apply the appropriate trademark to the following terms: the Fiend Folio Tome, the Polyhedron New Zine, the Chainmail game, and the Hollow World box set.
I kind of enjoy this thing.
Yeah. Which of these should be hyphenated?
Yeah, I mean it's so that's well worth going through at some other point all by itself.
Perhaps we will come back to it sometime. Enjoy the convenience of home delivery. Have Dragon show up at home. I wonder if they shipped Dragon in the brown paper wrapper the same way they would ship Playboy, just so people didn't make fun of you for getting it.
Actually, it came in an envelope.
Okay.
Brown variety.
How to role play in one easy lesson.
This is where they're gonna fun with us for.
Oh yes.
And humor's a hard thing, but this is where they're funning with us. But no, keep rolling, because this knocks
there you go.
Socks off down here on page 15.
Well, we'll get there. Character name generation table.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, it's right above that. Yeah.
You get to roll dice to determine whether you have a vowel or a consonant coming up.
And if you roll a 6, your name ends.
Because anything, we can make a table out of anything.
That is all right.
Virgin Games. Here is a question for our audience. How many of you have ever actually been to a Virgin Games store?
That's what I'm saying. Oh my goodness.
That is,
go to a Virgin Superstore.
So in the summer of '88 in London, I picked up the Games Workshop Warhammer Fantasy Battles starter box that had the 60 plastic minis, the 10 each of the elves, dark elves, dwarves, orcs, ratlings, and something else. But there were it was probably humans, because I think there were 3 good guy factions and 3 bad guy factions. So, but I've actually been to a Virgin Games store and spent money there.
And just for the record, that box, otherwise known as not enough to actually play this damn game.
Well, and I wasn't buying it to play the damn game. I was buying it because I needed hordes of bad guys.
Roger that. As
previously mentioned. Murdy's Magic Shop. Is this what we were trying to get to that you were looking for?
Well, no, it was actually the Virgin Megastore thing.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
That was what I was heading to.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I mean, this is back one of the runs, and it's been a number over the years, one of the runs that gaming made to make it into broad acceptability.
Yeah. Yeah. Murdy's Manual of Magical Merchandise. We're going to just skip right through this because most of them are fairly silly and they all start with M.
This yellow page thing is killing me.
Remember when Walden Books sold role-playing stuff?
Oh, I sure do. And this is, you can see where we are in the process. Heavy into second edition. And
so I'm not going to ask you to admit to it one way or the other because I'm not sure what the statute of limitations is. But I know people who have gone into a Walden Books, sort of kind of cracked the shrink on a game because they wanted to kind of explore what might have been in the box, and a couple of other pieces of other games happened to slip into that box also, and then once you had a fairly hefty box, you'd go pay for it. Yeah, I know plenty of people that did that at Walden Books. It's probably why Walden Books went out of business.
I'm not sure that's what I think. Jeff Bezos might have had something more to do with that. But
well, possibly.
I will tell you that I was always that kid that was horrified to open a game.
Because you were never sure if it was all going to be there?
And when I got told by a friend of mine who worked, I think at B. Dalton, not at Walden Books, but got told that, no, actually, we got a shrink machine in the back. It's no problem. We do it all the time. I was mortified.
Yeah.
I thought that shrink was a sacred ritual.
Yeah.
Never to be touched, so, yeah.
So, the Bazaar of the Bazaar. The mirror of sophistication.
Yeah.
Any woman who views herself in this mirror shall have her hair arranged for her best appearance. However, she was a dwarven princess. So it's arranging her hair for best dwarven look. And any female human, demi-human, or humanoid who looks directly in the mirror will grow a thick, luxurious dwarven beard.
Well, you know. And it's, you know, all these items, this was so fun. I mean, we would all...
Did we mention this is the April issue?
Yeah. Yeah, the Ring of Ice is delightful, too.
Yes.
But at the bottom of this whole article, when we get to the very bottom, we have one of these things, and I would love to trace back where this first came from. I suspect it's GW's fault. I'm talking about these cyborgs. Who was it that first said, we are bored with fantasy, we need to have robot orcs?
Yeah.
We're bored with elves, we need to give them tech. And again, I suspect it's Rogue Trader and the guys at GW. But this you know, and now suddenly you've got orcs on little tanks with Gatling guns and treads. You've got all this other stuff. But also, this is Ralpartha for who? For Canadians. I don't know why Vance gets the special treatment there, but...
because it was being sold through Ratham. That's why.
Okay. You'll never be bothered by those pesky Terrans again. Get wired today.
Well...
So, was this an attempt by Ralpartha to go, hey, you don't need to buy those expensive GW guys?
Perhaps. The reason we grabbed this particular issue, though, however, is on the next page, and that is our Origins Awards ballot for the 1990 game release year. And so this is why I grabbed this one. Because, first of all, the Origins Award ballot's in a damn magazine. Like, you don't have to go to Origins to vote, which is what you have to do now.
Yes.
Second of all, I want to take a quick run through some of the categories here, just to show you how different the world is today. Best Historical Figure Series, Best
Figure Series. It's not a real book, it's a fig series.
Yes. Best
Bretonians are not historical miniatures.
Fantasy or sci-fi.
I'm shocked at that.
Best Fantasy or Sci-Fi Figure Series. Best Vehicular Miniature Series. Best Accessory Figure Series. I love that one of them is the 1/300 hovels, European and Russian villages. This is great.
From the crew at Stone Mountain.
Best Miniatures Rules. Whoops. Got ahead of ourselves here. Best Minis Rules. Harpoon. DBA, which is still around. Fire and Fury, still around. Over the Top, still around.
Yep.
It was a good year for Miniatures Rules. Best Role-Playing Rules. If you're the one bonehead who voted for Buck Rogers, we've got some words to have.
No, you have to go to the bottom.
Oh, we're getting there. I will say this. So,
of your list right there.
Oh, Torg?
Torg.
Yeah.
Role-Playing the Possibility Wars.
So I will say this, though. We just totally shellacked the Buck Rogers game at the very beginning of this whole thing, and yet I dare say neither one of us have ever cracked a rule book on it. They may be a fantastic set of rules. I have no idea. I was never going to even try to pick it up because I just didn't give a rip.
Right. And so the point being what? Yeah.
Yeah. That said, I have actually played these Pendragon rules, and it for the ones from Chaosium, and they're not a bad game. Didn't bother me at all. Best Role-Playing Adventures. There you go. There's a handful of them. Vecna Lives. I will say I've played most of the Harlequin campaign for Shadowrun. Fun campaign. I couldn't tell you if it was the best of 1990 because I hadn't played all 5 of these. But of the 2 on there that I had played, it's better than Vecna Lives. So, all right, let's go to the next page and let's go see what else we've got on our Origins Award ballot. Best graphic presentation of a role-playing game. Pre-20th century board game. Now, here's part of my amusement of how they word this. Does that mean it's the best board game that was created before the 20th century?
Well, I'm not sure they cared about that much.
But
so,
the Republic of Rome game from Avalon Hill is still spoken with, about with, some significant reverence over the years.
Oh, and it should be. And by the way, as you punch through these, I will tell you who won. You know what? This won't take very long. I want you to guess who won. I pulled up the winners.
For number 10, the pre-20th century board game?
Yeah.
If there's any justice in the world, it was Republic of Rome, but I have a feeling it was probably the New World game.
Republic of Rome.
Okay, good. Best modern-day board game, I'm going to guess Battle of Britain.
I would have wanted that. Euro Rails.
No, that was the start of our downhill slide right there.
That's exactly why I wanted to make that point.
Fantasy or sci-fi board game, I'm going to go with the Gene Stealer supplement on that one.
Correct.
Yeah. That was almost a gimme, just because Space Hulk stuff is so beloved. And you can absolutely count on the fact that the Space Hulk fans totally stuffed the ballot box on that.
Yes.
And so, I'm best play-by-mail game. Remember back when you used to have to put things in an envelope and send them somewhere?
I do.
So, best new play-by-mail game. There were enough of them that we needed a separate category for new play-by-mail games. Sci-fi or fantasy computer game.
This one strikes me as easy.
I'm going to hope Champions of Krynn.
No.
No, was it Dragon Strike?
Wing Commander owned the world.
Oh, really? Okay.
Wing Commander owned the world in 1990.
Military or strategy computer game. It's got to be Harpoon, hasn't it?
Populous.
I get why it would be, but I think probably the intervening 20-something years all want us for him to have never won anything.
Well, just so for the reference, folks, we're talking about Peter Molyneux, and Brand's point is correct.
So, best professional adventure gaming magazine. Somehow Dragon isn't nominated.
That's correct.
S&T? Did S&T win it? Dungeon won it? Okay, so Dragon wasn't nominated, therefore Dungeon must win.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to try and guess the amateur one there. Authorized a revote in both of last year's play-by-mail categories. I would hate to know the scandal that erupted in the play-by-mail community that forced a revote from the 89 categories.
I do want to shove back very quickly. I want you to tell me, because as you correctly observed, that was an incredibly strong group of miniature rules in 1990. That really was a next wave sort of year where some absolute modern classics came out. Which one won?
Battletech.
Very good. Not what I would have picked, but I understand why. And let it also be observed before we pass, this was the year that Richard Berg was admitted into the Adventure Gaming Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
The Erasmus won himself.
Yeah. The reason I picked Battletech, there's a very easy way in which you can pick Battletech. The Grogs all split themselves amongst the other ones. The Space 1889 minis rules never took off worth a crap, but Battletech owned the world at the time.
Yes.
That was such a no-brainer. I mean, there were probably, you'd have to go back and look it up on Board Game Geek or something, but I'm willing to bet that between 89 and 91, they probably averaged a Battletech product every 2 weeks.
That seems right. And remember, all those miniatures, Rel Partha.
Yeah. So just by way of throwing some Battletech commentary out there, I for a long time had a copy of Battle Droids.
Oh dear.
I handed it off to a friend of mine when I lived in Columbia because he was a bit of a Battletech nerd, and I was trying to slim down the collection a little bit. And I didn't have the box anymore, but I had the rules, the maps. I still had most of the plastic figures, and I let him have the whole thing. So, but yes, for a long time I had a copy of Battle Droids. Here's our forum. So again, the newsletter. This is the pre-internet message board, folks. Sparsely illustrated too. I mean, look, layout people, add a pull quote. Like we need some sort of. This looks like a Jason Pratt wall of text. Here's our convention calendar. We're not going to dig too deeply into the convention calendar here, but we've got a convention calendar. Hey, look, Mideast Peace Now from the guys over at Columbia.
Yeah, but also, go to the bottom.
What?
Look who it's distributed by. This game is distributed by Chessex.
Yes. Well, because for a long time, Chessex was a distribution house, not just, a dice manufacturer. So
that's amazing to me. That I have no memory of that. That struck me. And also, this is a very different game from our crew over at Columbia. I gotta look this up and see what this creature looked like.
You mean the guys that alternated between Block Games and Harn?
Yeah.
They managed to do both reasonably well.
Oh, yes, great success. And going strong, bless them.
Yes. Hey, look, Game Science, high-impact precision edge dice.
We've talked about this, folks.
Yes, we have. The dice with warranties.
These are your warranted dice. and what is one of the places you can buy a warranted die? The much-mourned Emperor's Headquarters in Chicago, Illinois.
Yeah.
Home of the Empire 1, 2, 3, and 4 rule system.
You'll notice our convention calendar is spreading across multiple pages here, in large part because there were enough conventions back then to keep this going. What's crazy now is at the beginning of each year, we run a convention calendar for the upcoming year. And we don't get every convention in there. We try to keep it more towards the grog-focused ones, as well as some personal favorites of some of our readers and regulars at the site. But we still come pretty darn close to one convention per weekend that we've got in that list. And I imagine it wouldn't take much to really put together, if you could pull together the omnibus game convention calendar for the U.S., I'm betting you got at least 2 per week for the entire year, aside from like Thanksgiving and Christmas. Somewhere in the U.S., there are at least 2 conventions going on everywhere. Great hobby there. See, we're still going with the convention calendar. Check us out.
Crazy.
Yeah. The Death Knights of Krynn. The incredible sequel to the Champions of Krynn. But of note, last episode we were talking about your little 3 sticks making a triangle. Check it out. We've got actual graphics.
Yes.
And cheesy though they may be, that's not bad graphics compared to what it could have been.
No. And my brother, this was not my generation stuff. This was not my generation. I was past this. I was a deep board wargamer and miniatures wargamer at this point. But my brother played this obsessively. Yeah. This was on the Amiga. No
yes.
This was his hard jam. Right?
And this was the challenge that us Mac guys had, is that SSI made a crap ton of stuff for the DOS system and for the Commodore systems, and didn't made very little for the Macs, which was very frustrating. Hey, look, some role-playing reviews. So somewhere after issue 60, they started adding some reviews, and so they've got the all-new reboot of Dungeon. But check out what else we've got in here.
I was going to say, I know we're trying to keep this tight, but just take a look at what a font of gaming this was. New Dungeon, fine, average game. Arkham Horror, a classic that's been through several reboots. Hero Quest, I would play it today, right now. Space Crusade, by Milton Bradley of all things.
Yes.
This is better than Space Hulk, folks. Play Space Crusade. It's great.
If you can find it.
No, you're right. And I've got a friend. I don't even have a copy myself. I have a friend who does, and we play. Dungeon Quest. These are...
Well, and I'll tell you, the one you're going to give short shrift to in all of this is the Great Con game.
Right.
And yet, this is actually a great Tom Wham game, with Jeff and Amanda D doing the artwork. But as Tom goes, this is actually... There's a significant joking component to it, as there is with every Tom Wham game. However, this was actually a really fun, big picture strategic kind of game. It says mock epic tone in simultaneously exploiting and parodying the most distinctive excesses of a grand fantasy genre. But I will tell you, as a game, to sit down and just play a game, it was good. It was a really good game. There was some serious diplomacy involved. But there was always the ability to just sort of ignore everybody, build up your forces, and try and steamroll the place. It was a good game, and I have a feeling it would totally get a the short shrift in the company of Arkham Horror, Hero Quest, Space Crusade, and Dungeon Quest. So
yeah, no, and also if you keep reading down, they've got some others, including Silent Death, Space Hulk, Deathwing and Gene Stealers, and Whiz Wars from Tom Jolly.
Yeah.
I mean, are you kidding?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? That's a pile of games that today, if a bunch of people came to my house and said, "Let's play these," I could absolutely set them up.
Yeah, no kidding. And you blew off Mertwig's Maze, which was another good Tom Lamb game.
No, and that's unfair of me. You're absolutely right. Well, I've played a bunch of that. Every one of those games has at least 20 plays with me. At least.
Yeah.
And there aren't that many games, I would say. And you're right. I'm not giving it short shrift because the fact is, the thing about those games is, although Hero Quest and Space Crusade and some of these others had amazing pieces, not all of these are that graphically amazing. Certainly the Great Khan game is not. This War is not. But God, there was incredible levels of depth and value there.
Yeah, they were great games. And here's my frustration with all of this. So we've got 5 great box covers. We've got some very in-depth, detailed rules information. Wouldn't it be nice to see a picture of the damn game? Can we not look?
Up and point a camera at
it? This is post-desktop publishing introduction, people. You can take a picture, scan a picture, and insert a picture. And I know you can do all this because I was doing it 3 years before that with my high school newspaper. So I know you can do it. Why didn't you bother? All right, let's keep moving. Sorry, rant over. Monstrous Compendiums. The monster manual so thick you needed a binder to keep it in. All right, so here's something we've got to throw some love at. The Voyage of the Princess Ark, as put together by the incomparable Bruce Hurd. So this, for those that don't know, my love of Mystara knows no bounds. That was the game world first introduced in Module X1 and expanded throughout the series of the BECMI games, modules over the years. And one of the things that really tied it all together in kind of a unified world and gave folks that touchstone that, again, is so often missing in the hobby today. The thing that's missing is something in the magazine that almost becomes canonical, and that is the Voyage of the Princess Ark here. We've got Bruce Hurd talking about the flying airship of the Princess Ark and their explorations over Mystara. What's off the map? What else is out there? And so this takes the world of the Gazetteers and expands it and explodes it and tells you all sorts of great tales about what else is in this world. A lot of this material was later collected in the Champions of Krynn, or I'm sorry, not Champions of Krynn, Champions of Mystara box set. Champions of Krynn was on the brain from the ad a few pages ago. We've got a podcast where we talked with Bruce about his time helping develop Mystara. There's a photo essay of Brant's collection of Mystara stuff here at the Game Cave, and this is the kind of stuff that I used to just totally vacuum up Dragon magazines in order to be able to read. Need more of this. But I mean, there's the deck plan key because we've got deck plans that go with the all continued all the way down on page 108. But we've got the deck plans that go with the ships that are flying around the sky above Mystara. All right, Robotech, new generation video cassettes.
This is why the internet was invented. This right here. So that you didn't have to wait until your Dragon magazine showed up to be able to break down what was in all those bloody Robotech video cassettes.
Ah, perhaps. All right, the role of computers. There was a computer column at this point in Dragon magazine. And so we've got some explorations of wizardry, Powermonger, The Secret of Monkey Island.
Well, Powermonger was the sequel to Populous in many respects.
Yes.
This was their attempt to continue on that same theme, and it suffered massively from game design bloat. It was a great concept. I don't think it ever actually worked, despite the review here.
Yeah.
Obviously, Secret of Monkey Island stone cold classic. And what else do they review but Harpoon?
Not just Harpoon, the Mac version of Harpoon. I have to call attention to it. It is the Mac version of Harpoon.
And there was much rejoicing.
Yes, there was. But I love this. There's no doubt in our mind that Harpoon remains one of the better submarine warfare simulations.
They don't say that.
They do. It says one of the better submarine warfare simulations.
One simply moves the non-copy to the folder.
Right there. Whoops, hold on.
Oh, there it is. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, because that's what it is. That's what Harpoon is doing. So the bottom line here, they never actually reviewed the game.
No, they're just telling you there's a Mac version.
They're informing you that it's a Mac version because nobody who's played the game describes Harpoon as a submarine simulation.
No, not at all.
I'm saying that out loud.
All right, let's keep moving along here. We've got, again, Bane of the Cosmic Forge. We've got a wizardry sequel coming out here.
Did you just what is it? What are they?
What am I looking for?
What is this? The Buggies thing.
Oh.
What is this thing? Curse the Azure.
It's a bug report.
The character I conjure. So they basically took the opportunity to say that, yeah, there's something. Wow, this also is why we invented the internet.
Yes,
because this is how.
So here's one thing that I will note. It is unsigned, so there's no attribution to the bug report. But I'm willing to put $10 down that it was Herman Humm.
That's amazing. This is how they reported bugs out. Wow.
Yeah.
And, we get clues for the Bard's Tale too. That's very nice.
And Curse the Azure Bonds.
Nice, very good.
And there's more clues over here too. So Ultima 6, when you're stuck on Ultima 6, Secret of the Silver Blades. There's all sorts of clues there. So
awesome.
Yeah. Some sage advice. So all sorts of random rules clarifications. Again, why we have the internet, people. How much weight can a wizard carry when using a fly spell? This is up to the DM. They should have just stopped there. Like that's the answer to this is like a one sentence answer to every question you ask. This is up to the DM.
Yeah, it's.
Am I wrong?
No, and that's the point. Is it so? But then why most campaigns allow to fly with as much weight as he normally could carry? Some campaigns, they then go on to contradict themselves.
Yes.
Some campaigns apply the standard encumbrance rules and cut flying speed according to weight. Others allow flying only with light encumbrance. So it isn't up to the DM. I observe, and I don't know if you want to note this, we are now halfway through this episode.
Yes. Yeah.
Do you want to try doing these in halves?
Maybe, but let's just go ahead and move through this one, and we'll see where we end up after that.
All right.
All right. Thor goes fishing. He simply drops Mjolnir on some poor fish's head, and life goes on. But again, some narrative fiction in the magazine way back when. Love this. Try your hand at game design.
By joining the EVPA, which is what?
Escape Ventures Playtesting Association.
Whoa. All right. Is this like, can you draw this mouse?
Not exactly. But yeah.
Sure.
Some TSR previews. Hey, what's TSR got coming up over the next couple of years or a couple of months? New products for April, new products for May. I want to draw attention to one of the new products for May. This was the start of the historical reference series of campaign guides, which, quite frankly, had crap game material in them, but had some pretty decent historical reference stuff because they did do some good research about the history behind what they were writing about. So the Vikings, there was one on Charlemagne's Paladins. There were a couple of these things, and they were pretty good. They weren't bad history books. They just weren't necessarily great game books.
I still have a Mighty Fortress, which was their Reformation book.
Yes, not bad. Hey, some novels. So we've got some book reviews, as going through here, and so it's fairly Dragonlance heavy at this point. Chessex, now that's a D4. Excuse me. Let's keep on moving here. Look, fantasy decals from the Armory. case you want to stick some fantasy decals on your minis.
Decals are part of the modeling universe, going way, way back.
Yes, and you need them. So, all right, and then the Marvel file, because we had to have some information about the Marvel role-playing game in there. So, what do we got? Team changes. Alpha Flight. Got to get the Canadians in there. The Avengers. Guess what? The Avengers mansion was destroyed by the Masters of Evil. Moved out to Hydro. I actually have this stack of issues, probably 20 feet from me right now, where the Avengers start moving around and, oh, by the way, also start adding the West Coast wing of the Avengers. The UN Charter was quickly reinstated. The UN quickly reinstated the Avengers Charter with a few revisions, and so now they belong to the UN branch. They're working for the UN and not for the U.S. government. Off we go. So, Quasar, Cersei, She-Hulk, Thor, and the Vision, and the reserve substitutes. Love the reserve substitutes. So, here come all of the varying Marvel superhero universe changes. We've got a couple of guys recently passed, a couple of guys that have shown up again to start ruining your afternoon. There's Wolvesbane. Incidentally, this was not intentional, but the just recently announced New Mutants movie features Maisie Williams playing Wolvesbane. Maisie Williams of Game of Thrones fame is going to be playing Wolvesbane in the New Mutants movie. But hey, layout people, this is a really bad paste-up job with the white borders. What, we couldn't get some transparency going on there? Nice big block white. Come on, layout people. Get to work. Hey, look, a Rifts ad. Anybody ever actually play Rifts? The Ultimate in Munchkin Gaming?
Yeah, I'm gonna say Rifts more than ICE.
Yeah, probably.
Crossword puzzle.
Yeah.
Ralph Partha ad. Wait for it. The next ad is my favorite in this episode.
Vampire?
There it is.
Available soon from White Wolf.
What in the 9 layers of hell is Asvedium? Asdevium. Which is announcing Vampire.
I have no idea. But it's available soon from White Wolf. So who knows?
Wolf. Oh, Asvedium Games. That was the name of the company. Oh, wow, it's on... Whoa. That's amazing. It's from Wellington Street, Aldershot, the home of the British Army.
The SAS.
My goodness.
Yeah.
Look at that. There it is. There it is, folks. There's your roots of Vampire the Masquerade.
All right, so here's a whole... Hey, look, charts and tables in a role-playing magazine. Who'd have thunk?
Oh, my... And this yellow. Oh, this yellow. Oh, my God.
Hey, some other Palladium RPG stuff. Let's keep moving.
More riffs.
2 stars of the Forgotten Realms campaign universe. Some of the Harpers, which I actually enjoyed some of the Harpers novels when they came out. The Elaine Cunningham Harpers novels I happen to really like. There were a couple of pretty good ones out there. But the Harpers was kind of a neat concept as a novel series where it was sort of, some shared recurring characters, but they were all one-shot books. And so it was sort of a series that you could jump in or out of whenever you felt like. I thought that was kind of a neat concept. Hey, some spy stuff. The Novice Spy Master. Speaking of adventure, so hey, here's some tips for how to run an espionage role-playing game. But again, this is the same magazine that has now reviewed Harpoon, has on the computer, or at least discussed Harpoon on the computer, has reviewed multiple adventure board games, has given us all kinds of different convention calendars. We've got a superhero universe update, and now we've got some espionage stuff. We're covering a lot of ground, people.
And it is. It's interesting to see how they've not figured out quite yet what they are. We've not driven off into our own little areas.
Yeah, and we're 100 and something. We're 100 something issues into all of this.
Absolutely, and as we know, TSR is very soon from this episode going to be launching some of its very best war games.
Yeah. Who are these clowns? There we go. What else we have? Yeah, there's the. Let's put the ramp up there. Lancelot says it's all the rage in Camelot, skateboarding their way around. So, the somatic part wasn't so damn silly. Back when spell casting wasn't just I cast this spell. It was no. I have to have the right components, and I have to do the right motions, and I have to think the right things.
Yes. And if I can't do those things, I can't cast the spell.
Yeah. So, spell of protection. You're right. I do have a spell of protection. Bummer. The Twilight Empire comic strip, which I can confess to having never read a bit of. Let's keep moving. Hey, look, Steve Jackson games.
You got it.
Here's what I love about this.
Clip art.
Distributed exclusively in the UK by Chris Harvey Games, because if Steve Jackson Games tried to distribute Steve Jackson Games in the UK, he would get confused with Steve Jackson Games.
Correct.
The Gamer's Guide. Back when they used to do classified ads at the back of a magazine.
And this is just such a,
I mean, there's a whole section for play-by-mail games, as we've noticed.
The greatest of the magazine. Well, how big was play-by-mail gaming? There was a magazine dedicated to the topic.
There still is.
And there is. Yes. That's the punchline to that.
Yes. Through the Looking Glass. Again, you mentioned we've got miniature photos in previous episodes, and here they come again. We've got photos. But hey, look, not a black background. Minis you can actually see.
Yep.
Figured out how to put color photos in the magazine.
Oh, Grox blocks from Dark Tower Enterprises. These were almost exclusively being done for BattleTech.
Yes. Yes, pretty much. I don't know anybody that ever used them for anything other than that.
And here is this Osprey Publishing, over its long and storied career, has done more to illustrate advertising than any other company in the hobby. This picture of Bishop Odo removing his face mask and identifying that he's still alive, William the Conqueror identifying that he's still alive, and his brother, the bishop over to the right, who's the one gesturing towards him, is in the Osprey Normans book, and it's just everywhere. And here it is illustrating War Law.
Yep. Again.
Which nobody played.
Another book nobody's ever played. Here are the deck plans that accompany the Princess Arc article from earlier when we were talking about what's in the deck layout. They sort of kick these to the back of the magazine to extend the article. Let's roll on through. Hey, Bust Out of the Ordinary. And so there's the Marvel Superheroes role-playing game with quite frankly, some atrocious comic art. I mean, there were such better artists available at the time. This is the best you could come up with. Come on, people. But here's the ad for the HR1 with the Vikings. And then, there we go.
There it is.
A war game ad in a Dragon magazine. So, but yeah, this is as Desert Storm is happening. We've got, as it's just happened, we've got a board war game devoted to it. And so here we go.
And it is an accurate statement included in the ad. Game has received national news coverage on TV, newspapers, and radio.
Yep, it has.
Back when we had newspapers.
Absolutely. And so thus wraps Dragon Magazine 168. We're going to have to figure out, we're either going to have to just suck up the fact that it's going to take an hour to talk about each one of these, or we're going to have to figure out a way to do this faster.
Well, it's a learning experience. We appreciate everybody coming along for the ride. I hope everybody gets a chance to, and maybe folks who see something that they'd want to talk about can mention it in the Grog Hits forums.
Or better yet, send us a letter.
Right, we sent letters to the editor. We like those.
And we'll read some letters to the editor there. Okay. This has been Dragon Magazine 168. We'll explore some others down the line. Look, we've got 200 of these things to go through, people. We're going to be with you for a while.